Buckle up. We got a lot going on in the Gabby Petito story today. Is this Brian Laundrie, the suspect in her murder? Is this him caught on a trail cam? It sure looks like it from a quick glance, but the investigation has been done. What did they find out? I'm going to tell you today, but there's a lot more. Joy Reid on MSNBC is saying this story about Gabby Petito is getting way too much coverage, and she knows exactly why. But is she being hypocritical? Plus, we're going to talk about a brand new witness. What happened when they had an encounter with Brian Laundrie and a whole lot more. Don't miss any of it today and comment as you go along. Let me know what you think about this case. And we'll start with this over on MSNBC. Here's Joy Reid. She says the Gabby Petito case is getting way too much coverage. And she knows why, because it's a missing white woman. Is she right? Does she have a point? I'll take her to task in just a second.
But the way this story has captivated the nation has many wondering, why not the same media attention when people of color go missing? Well, the answer actually has a name: missing white woman syndrome, the term coined by the late and great Gwen Ifill to describe the media and public fascination with missing white women like Laci Peterson or Natalie Holloway, while ignoring cases involving missing people of color.
So is Joy Reid right over on MSNBC? Does she have a point? Boy, if only she had a platform where she could discuss stories like these. Important stories that are being ignored by the media. Let's check out the transcripts, because since she's had her daily show on MSNBC, they've been keeping transcripts with everything that's said on the show. So I looked up the word missing, as in missing person of color, whatever. It's going to have the word missing in it. And it comes up with lots of stories about missing votes or missing this or missing that. 3 different pages of transcripts that have the word missing in it. And I did the work. I read through all of them. Not a single story about a missing person of color on Joy Reid's show. So maybe start in your own house before you go after everybody else. But the real thing to point out here is that it's not just about beautiful people, although these stories are largely about attractive people. It's not just about people with social media tie-ins, although that's a big thing. It's about the fact that there's so much mystery to a story like this, twists and turns that keep us guessing. For God's sake, the entire world was transfixed with the story of an actor who was involved in a hate crime. Somebody attacked him based on the color of his skin. And for weeks and weeks, we went over this. We tried to find the people who did it. And then Jussie Smollett was charged for lying about the entire thing. These stories have twists and turns, and it keeps things interesting for you. That's the main reason why you keep tuning in. But maybe you disagree. Does she have a point? There's a lot of stories about this today before we get into this trail cam footage and the investigation there. Since Petito's family went public with her disappearance, there's been around-the-clock international news coverage. While her story is undeniably tragic, the public scrutiny has prompted some to note that missing Black and Indigenous people often don't receive the same response from journalists or law enforcement. It's not that there shouldn't be concern and outrage surrounding Petito's disappearance, but despite the fact that 40% of Americans reported missing are people of color, this national outcry is rarely replicated for anyone other than a white person. Well, one of the things they do is they cite a study. Here's the actual study. They say that there are, at least there were 710 indigenous peoples who were missing in the very state of Wyoming where Gabby Petito's body was found. And that's true. 710% or 710 people were reported missing. And of them, many of them were reported missing multiple times. Of them, 85% were kids, 57% were female, and they were from all over the state of Wyoming. But here's an interesting fact they leave out of this. 10% of these people were found on the same day. That's not going to generate a whole bunch of news coverage. Gabby Petito was last seen quite some time ago. Then they say 50% are found within 1 week. Now we're up to 60% of all these indigenous people who are missing their cases. 1/5 of the indigenous people reported missing were missing for more than 30 days. So that's down to only 20%. In fact, all of them were found except for 10 people who are listed missing as of right now, 3 females and 7 males. So the media coverage may be slightly disproportionate, but it's also about the intrigue of the case. All right, to that trail camera. Was this Brian Laundrie spotted on this trail camera in Florida? There's a photo. This one's kind of tiny, so let me give you the source of it. Here it is, a post from Sam Bass on Facebook. Sam Bass said this: I'm not saying this is the guy, but Whoever was on my trail camera this morning in Baker, Florida, strongly fits the description of Brian Laundrie. Authorities have been contacted, but people in Northwest Florida should be on the lookout. First comment that I see is, does not look like him. That's what this guy, Randy, says. I don't see it. Brian's profile is much different. And then Hannah disagrees. The hairline is pretty on point. You take a look at this yourself and tell me what you think. Is that Brian Laundrie? Let me know. And this is what the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office has to say about it. They did their due diligence in response to this report, and they're wrapping up an extensive search that took place in the area to also include nearby farmlands and a search by drone. No one and nothing of note was located, they say. There are no known possible past or current connections between Laundrie and anybody in the area at this time to follow up on. So they don't really believe it was him. Why did others? The backpack looks kind of similar to this backpack that you see in the van that Gabby and Brian had shared. In fact, some people say he's got two backpacks on here, and the second one is the one that you saw in the body cam video when they were pulled over for this domestic violence incident. But the Sun says the man in the picture is holding two backpacks, a larger light-colored backpack and a small pattern dark backpack. The smaller bag appears to match the one he was seen carrying in this body cam footage. Here's another story that we need to focus on. It's official. It is now official. Florida police say the Gabby Petito case is officially a criminal investigation, and Brian Laundrie remains missing, her fiance. Of course it's a criminal investigation. They found a body, and that's going to lead you to the next logical steps in all of this. But you do have to go through this process. Here's a witness who said she met Brian. She met Brian Laundrie. What was it like? Here's her story.
So I saw Brian Laundrie parking his van August 26th at Spread Creek. So I'd already reported to the FBI what I had seen, I wasn't 100% sure, but now that there's dash cam footage of the van where I saw it, I'm 100% certain that I did see him parking his van. And he was very kind of awkward and confused, and it was just him. There was no Gabby, but that's only because as a van lifer, I was checking out their van, and I was checking out to see if it was a couple or a solo dude. So it was a solo dude as far as I could see, unless she was in the back somewhere. But when I pulled up, he was driving still and hadn't yet pulled over. So I was like, hey, what are you going to do? Are you going to get over? Or are you going to let me pass? Because it's only one car width of a road. And he kind of pulled over like halfway and made me drive out of the road to go around him. So that was just really weird.
What do you think of her encounter? There's a lot of people, especially on TikTok, that are popping up with stories like this. I'll tell you somebody who has a very strong opinion on how the police have done their investigation so far. You probably recognize this face. This is John Walsh. And he says he's not pulling any punches. This has been a disaster of an investigation. Do you agree with him?
From the beginning, this has been a tragedy of errors. Let's go back. I watched that 911 call released yesterday, and I watched the video of the interview by the two cops. 911 operators are overwhelmed, but how that operator didn't get it to those cops, that the people, the wonderful guy that was passing through and saw him beating Gabby and then punching her when they got in the car, how that wasn't relayed to the cops. They did just the opposite. They sheltered him and wrote up in their report that he was the victim. She was. You could see if you look in that video. I've been involved in domestic cases, domestic abuse cases forever. She was scared to death in that video.
John Walsh says this has been a total mess in the way they handled it all the way back to the 911 call, including and not limited to when they knew that Brian Laundrie was back at the Laundrie family home, and they let him slip right through their fingers. What do you think? Is he right? We're still waiting on the autopsy as of video time, and they suggest that it's going to be complete by today, which is Tuesday. If the autopsy is already out, watch the follow-up video, because I'll do another one going over what the autopsy has found. Over to this. Here was a good clue that came out of this whole internet sleuthing about this case. When you saw the video on YouTube of people driving by Gabby's van, Gabby Petito's van was pretty identifiable, but what wasn't is you can see right down here are some sandals. And in other videos, there's sandals that Gabby is wearing that look very, very similar to the sandals that you see if you look very closely behind this van, which is an important detail. Other people were saying they saw Brian closing the door. I think they saw the ladder in some strange movement. Other people were saying they saw him digging a grave off to the side of the road or trying to bury the body. I don't think that was accurate either. I think people are looking just a little too much into this. And speaking of looking too much into this, the UK Sun running what they say maybe, they're not even sure, maybe the Pinterest account of Brian Laundrie, Gabby Petito's fiance. And on it, you see stuff like this, some spooky imagery here. It's very strange that there's, we got the cemetery gravestone here that says "My Baby" on this. Maybe this was just some art that he was into. I don't think that these things were really what people think they are after something tragic happens. The opposite of loss. Don't try to find me. I've finally escaped my master's wicked clutches. To the others, I say, join me. Bite the hand that feeds you. Viva la liberté. And then some photos from some other artists here. These are all things that were on this Pinterest account. This is a quote from Fight Club. It's only after we've lost everything that we're free to do anything. Burnout and repetition kills you. Lots of different stuff. Dark type stuff that they're looking at. And I still don't even know if that's his actual Pinterest account or if it matters. We have a habit of, after a tragedy, looking into every little thing and acting as if people on the way to a murder that may have been totally random left all these breadcrumbs that they intended us to look into. That sounds more like a movie or a book than real life, but maybe you think I'm wrong. Is this Brian Laundrie? I don't know. The biggest thing we're waiting for right now is that autopsy report, and I'll hit you with that as soon as it comes out. If you're new around here, facebook.com/The News Junkie, hit the subscribe button. If you're a supporter, I like that even better. Magnets on the way for you. Very, very soon, you'll get sent a magnet in the mail. YouTube.com/The News Junkie. You could subscribe over there if you'd like to. I very much appreciate it. And I appreciate you watching the video. I look forward to your comments. We'll talk to you again real soon.